Hey guys, tonight we are waddling into a story so charming and surreal it could only happen in the frostbitten folds of reality. Picture this, you're not a soldier, not even human, you're a penguin, a literal, flippered, tuxedo-clad bird in the middle of a military base. Your enemies? Maybe gravity, maybe the slippery tiles of a cafeteria. But your allies? Oh, just a regiment of Norwegian soldiers. And what's waiting at the end of today's journey? Knighthood. That's right. Tonight, we follow the true and weirdly majestic tale of how a penguin was knighted into the Norwegian Kingsguard. You probably won't survive this one from sheer adorableness alone. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And I'd love to know, where are you watching from and what time is it there right now? Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You trudge through crunchy snow, your belly brushing the powdery crust as your tiny, determined feet navigate the icy path. Around you, enormous human boots stamp and clomp, soldiers going about their morning routine. But you're not just some random Antarctic dropout who got lost on the way to the fish market. You belong here. At least, it's starting to feel like you do. The humans have a name for you, Nils Olaf. You don't know that, of course. You don't read the plaque by your enclosure, but you know the way they talk to you, how they laugh when you raise a flipper just so. There's affection there, respect even. And as silly as it sounds, this isn't your first time witnessing reverence, because today, something big is stirring in the chilly wind. But let's rewind a little. This all begins not in Norway, but in Scotland, where a certain zoo, Edinburgh Zoo to be exact, has an enclosure full of penguins and a peculiar military connection. You, dear listener, are a king penguin, all regal and round and prone to awkward belly flops. In 1972, a Norwegian lieutenant visiting the zoo for the Edinburgh military tattoo decides the regiment needs a mascot, something dignified yet adorable. They pick you, or rather one of your ancestors, that first Nils Olaf. That's right, you're not the first. You're the third or maybe the fourth in a long line of noble birds who inherited the same name and the same military destiny. Kind of like a dread pirate Roberts passed down from one brave waddler to the next. Historians still argue whether this bizarre tradition was meant as satire or sincere military bonding, but what's undeniable is the joy it brought to everyone involved. A penguin mascot? Instantly iconic. And not just a cute distraction. Nils Olaf rose through the ranks, literally, getting promotions over the years until eventually one of you was knighted.
Today, that's you. You're the current Nils. And this morning feels different. The soldiers are polishing their buttons. There's a brass band warming up nearby. Someone slipped you an extra sardine. Something's up. You take a small hop onto a rock, scanning the snowy yard. The sound of a bugle echoes. You squint at the flash of metals, the shimmer of a ceremonial saber. A gathering forms. Then it hits you like a cold breeze under the feathers. This is your day. Now, you may not grasp military protocol, but you've been around long enough to know that when the entire guard shows up with cameras and you're offered fish on a silver tray, things are escalating fast. Let's take a detour for a second. Did you know penguins have been part of military history before? In World War I, messenger pigeons were all the rage. But in the freezing trenches, soldiers actually found comfort in odd animal mascots. Dogs, donkeys, even bears. A Polish bear named Wojtek famously carried artillery shells and was given a rank and serial number. So a penguin? Par for the course, and somehow still unique. Back in the snowy courtyard, a line of soldiers parts. Out steps a high-ranking officer, regal, serious but with a twinkle in his eye. He's got a scroll in one hand and a small velvet cushion in the other. Upon it, a shiny, absurdly tiny medal. He approaches. The ceremony begins. You're gently ushered forward. Cameras click like cicadas in a summer night. Someone reads from the scroll. for exceptional service to the Royal Norwegian Guard and for inspiring loyalty, unity, and cheer. You stare at the shiny medal, then at the fish, then back at the medal. He bends down. Slowly, with great care, the officer touches a ceremonial sword to your shoulder. Not once, not twice, but thrice. Knighted. There's applause, laughter, a dignified cheer that erupts into a standing ovation. Sir Nils Olav, Knight of the Norwegian Order of St. Olav. Yes, they named it after you. The title is real, the story is real, and the humans, they're loving every surreal second of it. But what's most fascinating isn't the knighthood, it's what it represents. A shared joke turned beloved tradition. A reminder that sometimes militaries need mascots, not just for morale, but to remind themselves they're still human, that joy matters, that discipline and delight can coexist even in a penguin. And here you are, waddling off stage with your medal, one flipper held high like you practiced all night for this. Somewhere deep in your instincts, you know this is something special. Or maybe it's just the sardine high. Either way, you've just made history. And the snow? It falls softly as the band plays you out.
You waddle off the ceremonial platform with a certain air about you. Not that penguins are particularly known for swagger, but if there were ever a time, this is it. The velvet metal ribbon swings gently around your feathery neck, catching the breeze like a banner of absurd nobility. To the left, a child squeals with delight. To the right, a soldier wipes away something suspiciously like a tear. It's one of those moments when the world pauses to admire just how wonderfully strange life can be. Your journey back to the enclosure is surprisingly theatrical. Someone rolls out a little red carpet. Another soldier salutes you, not ironically, not mockingly, but with the reverence reserved for decorated heroes. The penguin next to you tilts his head, clearly baffled. You just nod like, yes, this is normal now. Behind the scenes, though, things are anything but normal. Let's take a moment to peek behind that feathery curtain and explore how a military penguin even becomes a possibility in the first place. Because this isn't just about one lucky bird being knighted, it's about a legacy that started over 50 years ago. Flashback to 1972. The Norwegian Kingsguard is in Edinburgh for the Military Tattoo, a globally renowned display of pageantry, kilts, and bagpipes that somehow doesn't implode under the weight of all that tartan. During a break, the guardsmen are taken on a tour of Edinburgh Zoo. Enter the penguins. According to lore and zoo records, a young lieutenant named Nils Agelian sees the waddling kings and thinks, that one is our new mascot. Whether this was the result of sleep deprivation, too much whiskey, or just pure divine inspiration, historians still argue. What's clear is this: it's stuck. The first penguin to bear the name Nils Olav, named after both the lieutenant and then King Olaf V, was promptly adopted by the regiment. But this wasn't some cute fleeting idea. No, they went all in. The penguin received a title, mascot, and over time, he began climbing the ranks. We're talking full-on military promotions. Corporal, sergeant, even regimental sergeant major. Each promotion was marked by an official ceremony, medals, speeches, and yes, fishy bribes. You might be wondering, do penguins care about hierarchy? Short answer, no. Long answer, still no, but they definitely appreciate snacks. What makes this tradition particularly fascinating is how long it's lasted. The first Nils passed away in the 1980s, but his successor, and now you, continued the legacy.
every time the Kingsguard visits Edinburgh, which is surprisingly often given they're, in a completely different country, they honor Nils with yet another bump in rank. It's bizarre. It's hilarious. It's also kind of beautiful. You stand now as Brigadier Sir Nils Olaf III, a title more decorated than most humans will ever achieve. Your knighthood in 2008 made global headlines, and not just in novelty blogs. Major media outlets picked it up. Social media exploded with memes and heartfelt admiration. And here's the kicker. It's all officially sanctioned. That's right, the Norwegian monarchy approved the knighthood. Somewhere, royal paperwork exists acknowledging a penguin as a knight. Somewhere else, a bureaucrat had to sign that form, likely with a straight face. But this tradition speaks to something deeper, the human love for symbols. Throughout history, people have used animals as emblems of courage, wisdom, and loyalty. Lions in coats of arms, eagles on national seals, owls for wisdom. But sometimes we pick a penguin, not because it's fierce or fast or majestic, but because it makes us smile. And you do that effortlessly. Let's shift gears a little. Back in the enclosure, after your ceremony, you plop into your favorite corner, totally spent. Being a symbol of international whimsy is exhausting. The snow crunches beneath your belly as you settle in, watching visitors press their faces to the glass. Some hold up phones, others wave. A few kids copy your flipper motions, giggling when you respond. It's a weird kind of fame. You're adored, but not mobbed. You don't have to give interviews, no autographs, no scandalous tabloid stories. The one time you did steal another penguin's pebble, and the zookeepers were not amused. The rest of your day unfolds in predictable penguin patterns. You preen, you nap. You swim slow circles around the enclosure, trailing bubbles like punctuation marks. Every so often, a soldier stops by to check in. Not on duty, just curious. It's like they're visiting a friend. One of them brings a framed photo from the ceremony and places it near the glass. It shows you mid-knighting, flipper raised, eyes squinting at the sword like, is that sharp? And suddenly, we're back to that historical oddity, the importance of mascots. Military mascots aren't new. In fact, they go back centuries. Ancient Roman legions carried animal-shaped standards into battle. British regiments have long maintained animal mascots, from goats to ponies. Even the U.S. Marines have a tradition of bulldog mascots, often named Chesty. But you're different. You're about levity. And in a world increasingly full of noise, you offer a quiet reminder, not all symbols need to roar. Some can waddle. By early evening, the sky over Edinburgh turns watercolor purple. The last of the ceremony guests trickle out, replaced by soft jazz playing over the zoo's intercom. A zookeeper walks by, gives you a thumbs up, and you tilt your head in acknowledgement. You're feeling sleepy, metal gently clinking as you nuzzle into the straw. Tomorrow, things go back to normal, or as normal as they get when you're a knighted penguin. But tonight, you are legend. And in a strange roundabout way, you've reminded the world that sometimes the most unlikely creatures make the biggest impact. Whether it's morale in the barracks, laughter in the news cycle, or warmth in the hearts of thousands, your flippers carry more weight than they seem. Somewhere, a soldier who used to feed you during his post writes about you in his memoirs. Somewhere else, a child names her toy penguin Sir Nils. And even further still, a classroom in Tokyo reads about the knighted bird and collectively squeals with joy. You've transcended species, rank, even geography. You are a knight, a mascot, a monarch in your own right. Sleep well, Sir Nils. Tomorrow is another day.
The next morning drapes itself over the Edinburgh Zoo with a gentle hush, like the universe is trying not to wake you too fast. But sleep doesn't last long when you're a knighted penguin. There's a kind of subtle buzzing around your enclosure, not the kind of buzzing that means fresh herring is on its way. That's a different excitement, but the kind that suggests something's afoot, or a flipper. You waddle up onto your favorite rock, yes, that rock, the slightly warm one with just the right view of the zookeeper's door, and survey your kingdom. That's when you spot them, a small tour group in formation. The front one's got a clipboard. Clipboard energy always means something official. You blink slowly, internally bracing for another photo op, maybe another weird honor, or, penguin forbid, an awkward mascot calendar shoot again. You still haven't forgiven anyone for the Cupid wings incident. But they're not coming for a picture this time. Instead, one of the zoo staff members gently enters the enclosure and carefully removes the velvet box housing your medal. It's not being taken away, it's being polished. You watch it go with a small sigh. You've only had it for a day, and already you miss that cold clink against your feathers. While your medal takes a spa day, let's lean into the weird comfort of being a military mascot in modern times. This isn't just pomp for the sake of pageantry. Military psychologists have long argued that mascots, animal or otherwise, play a key role in maintaining morale. It turns out that having a small, adorable creature represent you helps humans feel more human. During the grueling trench warfare of World War I, British and Australian troops famously kept kangaroos, cats, and even a bear named Winnie. Yep, the inspiration for Winnie the Pooh. The mascots didn't fight, they cuddled. They reminded soldiers of home, of laughter, of innocence. And you're part of that tradition. The Norwegian King's Guard, a highly trained military unit tasked with protecting royalty, has one of the most rigorous routines in Europe. And yet, nestled within their proud ranks, there's you, a literal bird in a tuxedo, standing shoulder to shoulder, or, well, foot to boot, with rifle-wielding elites. It shouldn't make sense, but it does. Because every unit, no matter how serious, benefits from a bit of levity. Historians still argue whether mascots genuinely affect military performance, or if they're just morale-boosting sideshows. But if you ask the Dards themselves, they'll tell you mascots matter. And in the case of Nils Olav, you're more than just a morale mascot. You've become a legend. Stories of your ceremony have reached classrooms, office break rooms, and even awkward dinner parties where someone blurts, "Did you know a penguin was knighted?" By midday, your medal is returned, polished to a mirror-like gleam. The sun catches its edge just right, and for a brief moment, your reflection stares back, almost regal. You fluff up, stretch a flipper, and bask in the afternoon adoration of your visitors. Some wave, one tries to salute, another mimics your walk and trips over their shoelace. You nod in quiet approval. All is as it should be. And now, let's peek into the more personal side of your fame, the fan mail. Oh yes, you get fan mail. The zoo has an entire drawer labeled Nils, full of letters, postcards, drawings, and even the occasional hand-knitted scarf, penguin-sized, of course. Some are from children who saw your story on the news. Others come from soldiers who once visited and never forgot you. One letter reads, "Dear Sir Nils, I hope you get all the fish you want. You're the bravest bird I know. Love, Henry, age 6, from Norway." Another says, "Thank you for making my son smile during chemo. You're his favorite knight." You don't read them, of course, you're a penguin, but the zookeepers do, and sometimes on quiet days, one of them will read a letter aloud as you nap. Their voice floats over the enclosure like warm mist, lulling you into dreams of ice fields and fish banquets. In these moments, your role feels clearer than ever. You're a mascot, yes. A knight, sure. But you're also a gentle reminder that the world still has room for joy. that stories don't need to be loud or violent to be important, that sometimes a tuxedo bird can outshine even the most decorated human. Back in the viewing area, a tourist points to the plaque near your enclosure. It lists your full title in proud gold lettering. A kid next to them reads it out loud and laughs. That's crazy. A penguin knight. Crazy, yes, but not impossible. Because you exist, and you're real, and you remind us that the world, despite its seriousness, still knows how to laugh at itself and honor that laughter. By sunset, a soft drizzle kisses the glass, dappling the light like glitter spilled across the sky. You stretch one last time, nestle into the straw, and let your eyes flutter closed. Behind you, unseen, a soldier who once served on guard duty at the palace leaves a small wooden token at the edge of the glass. It's carved with the King's Guard insignia. He whispers, "For luck." You twitch a flipper in your sleep. Even legends need to nap.
You wake up to a cool wind snaking through the zoo paths, rustling the leaves like whispers. The sky has settled into a soft overcast, the kind that makes tourists wear too many layers and regret it by lunchtime. You yawn, not because you're tired, penguins are perpetually ready for anything, but because it's been an emotional couple of days. You've been knighted, photographed, gifted a title. Honestly, the only thing you haven't received yet is your own historical reenactment troupe. But as you waddle over to your favorite water basin for a dip, something shifts in the atmosphere. The zoo is unusually quiet, almost reverent, and then it hits you. Today is inspection day. Yes, every now and then, a representative from the Norwegian King's Guard visits you, not just to say hi or check in, but to formally inspect their knight. You, Sir Nils Olav. You're about to be inspected by actual military brass. And so begins the oddest part of your job. Not the media attention, not the photo ops, but the performance of dignity when you are, in fact, a small bird who occasionally eats rocks by mistake. The inspection rituals are precise. The guards arrive in their sleek dress uniforms, polished boots clicking on the stone paths, feathers almost jealous of how sharp they look. You, on the other hand, are sporting your natural tuxedo, which frankly needs no pressing. One of the soldiers stands beside your enclosure and raises his hand in salute. It's a big moment. He's not saluting the zookeeper. He's saluting you. You tilt your head, blink twice, waddle forward. It's not exactly a salute back, but it'll do. He nods, satisfied. Let's pause here and remind ourselves. This isn't satire. This really happens. Norway's military takes this ceremony seriously. The Guard even sends an official delegation from Oslo to Edinburgh for the sole purpose of inspecting their knighted penguin. In 2016, during one such ceremony, they promoted you, yes, promoted, to brigadier. A penguin, with a higher rank than many of the humans attending. Historians still argue whether this level of reverence is symbolism taken too far, or a brilliant morale booster cloaked in feathers and fish. But honestly, you don't care, because just after the salute comes your reward, a bucket of fresh herring ceremonially tipped into your dining area. Let's face it, you're really here for the fish. But even in the middle of this military homage, life goes on. A toddler screams with joy at seeing you flap your flippers. An older gentleman adjusts his camera lens, trying to capture the exact moment you blink. Somewhere near the back of the group, a young recruit whispers, "That's him, right? The Penguin General." You'd blush if you could. But the ceremony has more to it. A guard steps forward with a scroll, the kind that rustles dramatically in movies. He reads from it with great pomp, something about duty, honor, and valor and service. You take a step forward and slip slightly on a wet stone. Dignity gone. For a second, you recover quickly, fluff your feathers, pretend it was intentional. The humans pretend too, out of respect. There's a little irony here, of course.
You're being celebrated for discipline in an environment that often defies order. Kids scream, parents juggle cameras and snacks. Peacocks from another part of the zoo squawk their way into your moment like accidental backup singers. But this is part of the magic, because in this chaos, there's structure. The ritual repeats year after year. The medal is polished, the salute given, the title reaffirmed. It anchors people to something whimsical, yet curiously formal. It blurs the line between serious and silly. And in a world where news cycles spin like wheels in mud, that kind of ritual feels sacred. Let's zoom out for a moment. The use of animals in ceremonial military roles is not new. Ancient Rome had war elephants. The Mongols rode with falcons. Naval ships once kept cats, not just for pest control, but as morale officers. The Soviet Union even gave medals to dogs who served in combat roles, some posthumously. But none of them received knighthood. That's your feather in the cap. You, Sir Nils Olav, are part of a microscopic handful of non-human beings to hold an official military rank in a sovereign nation's defense force. There are debates about whether the rank is honorary or symbolic, but when the guard salutes, it's real. And as the inspection concludes, and you're given a nod of approval, you feel something stir beneath the fluff and feathers. A sense of duty? Maybe. Or maybe just indigestion from too many sardines. Still, the moment is heavy. Not in a sad way, more like when you realize a joke has turned into something meaningful over time. Like how people initially laughed at the ceremony, but now travel across the world to witness it. Because here's the truth. People need symbols, especially odd, heartwarming ones. A penguin in a uniform taps into the kind of emotional reality that spreadsheets and headlines can't reach. The guards gather for a final group photo near your habitat. You're coaxed gently into the frame by your handler. You squawk, just once, loudly. The photographer snaps the picture mid-squawk. Perfect. The shot will appear in multiple newspapers, tweeted with captions like, "Brigadier Nils Olav leads the way," or "Scotland's most powerful bird gets his due." And somewhere, maybe in Norway, maybe in Canada, or on a tiny island no one can pronounce, a kid will see that photo and dream. Not of war, not of medals, but of penguins and stories, and how magic hides in the most unexpected uniforms. The guards bow slightly, yes, bow, and exit your enclosure area. The zookeeper gives you a snack. You eat with the quiet pride of someone who knows they've just upheld tradition with grace. Behind the scenes, someone starts uploading footage from the ceremony. The video will go viral. Again. Thousands of comments will roll in. Some humorous, some surprisingly tearful. Faith in humanity restored. I came for the penguin, stayed for the dignity. My new role model is 2 feet tall and hates the heat. And you stretch out under the enclosure's heat lamp, feathers steaming slightly, eyes drifting closed. Another inspection complete, another day in the books. And if penguins could dream in color, yours would be full of boots, brass, and an endless bucket of herring.
The sun is low now, filtering through the glassy domes of the zoo's penguin rock exhibit, casting long, wavy shadows like ripples on the seabed. You blink slowly, soaking it in. Not the sun. Penguins aren't huge fans of direct sunlight, but the moment. The way everything feels still, like the pause between applause and silence. But your peace doesn't last long. A commotion stirs just outside the enclosure. Footsteps, not the clunky tourist kind, but the measured, determined thump of uniformed boots. Someone's coming. Not for inspection this time, something different. You waddle closer to the edge of the habitat and peer through the transparent barrier. There, just beyond the rock wall, is a troop of Norwegian Kingsguard cadets.
young, eager, flushed with the energy of people who still iron their uniforms without being told. They're laughing, chatting, and carrying something big, a crate. Now, in your penguin experience, crates usually mean one of three things: fish, bad news, or visitors. Turns out, this time, it's the third. Out from the crate steps another penguin, smaller than you, smoother feathers, eyes wide like they just woke up in a new universe. A recruit. This changes everything. The zookeeper introduces the new arrival over a low speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, meet Corporal Olaf III. He'll be joining Sir Nils Olav for training and ceremonial duties. You cock your head. So this is your assistant, a protege? Oh boy. He's clearly nervous, sticking close to the zookeeper like a chick to a shadow. The tourists lean in, murmuring. One kid gasps, "That's the new guy. He's gonna work for the night penguin." The introduction is brief, no fanfare, no salutes, just a quiet insertion into your world. He waddles towards you awkwardly, flippers slightly askew, one webbed foot catching on a patch of moss. You sigh, and in that sigh lives the weight of mentorship. Because from this moment on, your days of lone waddling are over. Now, you're a trainer, a leader, the Gandalf to this feathered Frodo. You greet him the traditional penguin way, a long stare, followed by a half squawk and a slow circle around him. He mirrors you, unsure but eager. You give him a small peck on the side, lightly, just enough to establish dominance without sparking HR complaints. He gets the message. The tourists go wild. Over the next few hours, he follows you everywhere. Up the rock, down the slope, into the cool pool where you show him how to dive like a knight, not flail like a beach tourist. He's clumsy, of course, almost swallowed a leaf, but you admire the effort. And something unexpected stirs in your feathery chest. Pride. Not the puffed-up, front-page kind, the quiet kind. The kind that makes you nudge him a fish when no one's watching. But being a mentor is more than snacks and swims. It's storytelling, teaching, passing down the strange, beautiful lore of a penguin in the army. You lead him to your favorite rock, the one that stays warm into the night, and settle beside him. He watches you closely, head tilting with curiosity. You begin to show him the ceremonial bow, the respectful shuffle, the art of the noble pause before squawking. It's like training for theater, if the lead actor only ever says "ack ack." You perform a small mock inspection together. He forgets to salute, bumps into you, steps on your tail. You don't yell. You just sigh again, deeply, and go back to square one. Because isn't that what legacy is? One perfectly poised penguin teaching another how to stand still in the face of cameras and not trip over a fish bucket. Historians still argue whether introducing new recruits into animal ceremonial roles enhances tradition or waters it down. Some say it's a marketing ploy, a stunt for clicks. Others argue it preserves continuity. One penguin's glory doesn't have to die with their feathers. But you don't argue. You act. You show Olaf III how to walk in sync with the guard, how to turn his head at just the right moment for maximum regal impact, how to look noble even while scratching behind his ear with his flipper. These things matter. As night falls, the zookeeper dims the exhibit lights. The crowd has thinned, the guards have gone. Just a few die-hard fans linger with their phones glowing like fireflies. You settle on the warm stone. Olaf curls beside you, feathers still drying from his third pool dive. You watch the stars through the ceiling vents. They're faint, flickering through the city glow, but they're there, constant, patient, like tradition itself. Tomorrow, you'll do it again. The training, the walks, the unspoken communication of head tilts and flipper nudges.
You'll teach him the full scope of knighthood. When to be brave, when to be still, when to grab the last sardine without guilt. Because someday, Olaf might be standing where you are now, and when he does, you'll want him to know the honor isn't just in the medals or the salutes. It's in the slow, steady waddle of showing up again and again with grace. Even when your feet are cold. Even when your trainee steps on your tail. Again.
The next morning arrives with an unmistakable chill, not just in the air, but in the way it wraps around the stone of your habitat, nudging you gently awake. You stretch your flippers, let out a grumbly little honk, and blink into the soft gray of the Norwegian dawn. The glass ceiling overhead catches the first rays of sun and refracts them across the enclosure like a kaleidoscope of melting silver. Beside you, Olaf III is already upright. Sort of. He's half leaning against a rock, his head tilted at a tragic angle, beak slightly open in what might be his first snore. A rookie mistake, sleeping past first honk, but you let him rest for now. You remember how hard those first few days were, adjusting to a new place, learning new rules, and having the eyes of an entire guard squad on your every footstep. You waddled toward the edge of the pool, take a sharp breath, and dive. The water is sharper this morning, like it's reminding you who's boss. Your feathers, dense and waterproof, do their job, but you still feel the sting. You surface with a mighty splash and blink droplets from your eyes, catching a glimpse of your reflection in the water. Majestic. Then you see Olaf try to copy you. He waddles to the edge with something approximating determination. He dips one webbed foot in and recoils. He looks at you. You nod slowly. He braces himself, flaps once, and then launches with all the elegance of a falling meatball. It's not a bad attempt. Splash. You wait. And wait. Then he surfaces. Coughing, flailing, looking like he just discovered water was, in fact, wet. But he's smiling. Or at least he looks less terrified than yesterday. Progress. After drying off, you on the heat rock, him on your tail, you begin what the guards have dubbed formation training. Now, for most penguins, walking in a straight line is an Olympic-level challenge. For military penguins, it's an art form. Your job this morning is to lead Olaf in a figure-8 formation between two carefully placed buckets. You demonstrate first. One smooth shuffle, then a sharp turn. Another shuffle. Pause. Flipper salute. He watches with reverence, then tries. He bumps the first bucket, trips over the second, salutes with the wrong flipper, and honks loudly when he gets confused. You don't scold him. You just start over. Again, and again, and again. Because repetition is the soul of ceremony. And in between the stumbles and squawks, there's growth. You can feel it. Later that afternoon, you're summoned by the guards. There's a visitor, a journalist from a British animal history magazine. She kneels outside the enclosure, camera ready, waiting for that one perfect shot. You oblige, of course. Chin up, flippers relaxed. You give her the full nightly profile, even as Olaf tries to photobomb you with his latest trick, the dramatic head tilt of curiosity. The camera clicks away. Afterwards, she waves through the glass, mouthing the words, "He's just like you were." That hits different. You remember your early days. The nerves, the flipper flailing, the way the guards looked at you with that same mix of amusement and awe. Historians still argue whether Sir Nils Olav's original rise to knighthood was purely ceremonial or secretly political. Was it a gesture of goodwill or a deeply nuanced symbol of Norwegian-Scottish relations in feathery form? You don't debate. You just live it. As twilight rolls in, you both settle near the statue. Yes, the actual bronze statue of you, flippers outstretched in a pose of eternal readiness. Olaf stares at it for a while. "You really were something, huh?" his eyes seem to say. You give a modest shrug. Maybe. You begin showing him the story behind the pose, the day of the knighting, the crowd, the flash of cameras, the medals pinned carefully by gloved human hands. You demonstrate the bow again, slow and deliberate. He watches, then mirrors it, only slightly wobbling this time. You're getting somewhere. The zookeeper appears with 2 buckets, 1 fish, 1 filled with ice cubes, and inexplicably, a single rubber duck. You claim the fish. Olaf, curious, investigates the duck like it holds ancient secrets. He pokes it with his beak. It squeaks. He falls over. You do not laugh out loud. After dinner, there's one more task. The ceremonial perch. It's the highest rock in the habitat, just tall enough to make humans gasp when you climb it. You go first, using your old routine. Hop, slide, hop, pause. Then gesture with your beak for Olaf to follow. He hesitates. Then he begins the climb. It's clumsy, hesitant, like watching a toddler try stairs for the first time, but he doesn't give up. And when he finally reaches the top, panting, he stands beside you with that small, proud tilt of the head. Together, you face the world. The zoo lights dim around you. The city beyond the glass is buzzing, unaware that 2 penguins just had what could only be described as a deeply personal leadership breakthrough. You stay there, side by side, not talking, because words aren't needed. Because mentorship isn't about being perfect, it's about being there. For every tumble, every wrong-footed salute, every confusing squeaky duck moment. Because one day, when Olaf III is standing alone on this rock, flippers outstretched before a sea of cameras and guards, you'll want him to remember not just the steps, but the penguin who taught them to him. And until then, you'll keep walking the figure 8s. Over and over. With pride.
Morning begins not with the quiet of reflection, but with the unexpected honking of Olaf III attempting what you think might be a motivational chant. He's up early, waddling circles in the enclosure, muttering a series of garbled squawks and fluttering his flippers like he's leading a parade of invisible penguin recruits. Honestly, it's kind of inspiring, if a little unhinged. You yawn, stretch, and hop down from your perch with a little more flair than necessary. Olaf sees you, snaps to attention, and salutes, backwards. He's learning, slowly. At least now his flipper doesn't end up in his beak. Today is inspection day. Every Thursday, a squad of Norwegian officers in crisp uniforms file past your enclosure. They don't say much. They don't need to. You feel the expectations settle like snow on your feathers. It's not heavy, but it's cold and real. You and Olaf line up. Your feathers are perfectly preened, you tilt your head at the ideal ceremonial angle, your posture, textbook straight. Olaf tries. His chest puff is enthusiastic, if slightly off-center. You resist the urge to adjust it for him. He needs to feel the pressure, the moment. The lead officer nods. You both are dismissed. Afterward, you debrief with Olaf beside the pond. He's pacing, nervous energy. "Did I mess it up?" his flutters seem to say. You bop his beak lightly with yours, just once. A knight's way of saying, "Steady, soldier." The rest of the day is surprisingly quiet. Snow flurries drift across the glass roof, casting white speckles on the rock below. Olaf and you lie belly down on a heat patch, listening to the distant echo of a marching band. Somewhere, someone is preparing for a parade. And you know what that means. The King's Guard. Every year, they visit the zoo, not as soldiers, but as guests of honor. They come to pay respects to you, to the uniform, to the story. And this year, Olaf will march with you. It'll be his first time. You start drills after lunch. This is no bucket shuffle. This is the real deal. You lead him through every formation, short march, long march, sudden turns, flipper to shoulder pivots. Each routine has a rhythm, a flow, a kind of poetry that only military penguins can understand. He messes up the rhythm twice, maybe 3 times. But then something clicks. His steps begin to match yours. Left foot,
Right foot, hop. The tiniest nod of coordination sparks between you. You shoot him a sideways glance, a proud eye narrow that says, "You're getting it, kid." That evening, the handlers bring in a box. It's sealed with red tape and marked with a little golden sticker in the shape of a crown. You know that box. Inside is the official parade cape, red, trimmed with gold thread, impossibly regal. It drapes over your shoulders with perfect weight, like a badge of centuries. Olaf stares at it like it's made of dreams. The keeper pulls out a second one. Smaller, simpler, but it's real. It's for him. You lock eyes with Olaf. He doesn't move. Then slowly, he shuffles forward and bows his head so the cape can be placed gently over his back. It slides down awkwardly at first. He flaps to adjust it. It catches on his tail feathers. But then, it sits, just right. You both walk a practice march across the enclosure. To anyone outside, it probably looks ridiculous. Two penguins in capes waddling across snow-dusted rocks like they're heading to conquer Rome. But in that moment, you feel it. Unity, history, pride. The trainers clap. One even wipes a tear. Later, as you rest near the heat lamp, Olaf approaches. He sits close, closer than usual. You can tell he's nervous. He gestures to the cape lying beside him, then points to you. He doesn't speak, of course. Penguins rarely do, but his beady eyes seem to ask, "Did you feel scared your first time?" You think back. The marching, the trumpets, the loud applause when the metal touched your chest, the flutter in your belly that had nothing to do with hunger. And yes, you were scared, terrified even. But you don't say that. Instead, you place a flipper gently over the edge of his cape and tug it closer to him. Then you whisper, just loud enough for him to hear, "You'll be fine. You're one of us now." Historians still argue whether animals like you comprehend the gravity of military honors, whether the ceremony is symbolic or if you truly understand the reverence of tradition. But when Olaf smiles, shy and proud beneath his crooked cape, you know the answer. You both fall asleep under the red glow of the lamp, capes folded neatly beside you. And for the first time you feel something stir in the air. Anticipation. Not just for the parade, but for the future. Because this isn't just about legacy. It's about passing it on.
The morning of the parade arrives cloaked in fog, the kind of thick, milky fog that makes the world seem smaller, quieter, like someone wrapped the entire zoo in cotton and whispered, "Shh." But you feel it in your bones. Today is different. You're already awake when the keeper enters. She doesn't need to call your name. You're standing at the edge of the enclosure, posture perfect, waiting. Olaf, on the other hand, is upside down. Not by accident. He's trying some sort of pre-parade meditation involving a headstand on a rubber rock. You admire the commitment. Sort of. You give him the look. He topples over and straightens up immediately, fluffing his feathers with as much dignity as a penguin can muster. It's parade day. No time for penguin yoga. Your uniforms are laid out in boxes beside the enclosure. Yours in rich crimson velvet with gold tassels, Olaf's a newly stitched navy blue cape with a single silver clasp. A nod to rank, a nod to the journey he's just beginning. The keepers suit you both up. You don't squirm. Olaf does, especially when the clasp nips at his neck fluff. He makes a dramatic choking gesture, and you roll your eyes so hard it could count as a cardio workout. Once dressed, you line up side by side. He looks at you, you nod. And then the gates open. Not just figuratively. The handlers open the side gate that leads from your enclosure to the inner courtyard. It's the one with the stone tiles and the little brass plaque near the entrance. The one that only opens for the ceremonial procession. The courtyard is a swirl of feet. Polished black boots marching in practiced rhythm, kilts swaying slightly in the early breeze. Gleaming brass instruments catching what little sunlight escapes the fog. And then there's you. 2 penguins, one knighted, one on his first parade. The world slows down as you take your first step. Left foot, then right. Olaf follows half a beat behind, his flippers stiff with effort. The crowd? They're already losing it. Phones flash, children squeal. Somewhere, a very serious-looking general tries very hard not to smile as Olaf trips, catches himself, then regains formation with a little hop. But here's the thing. They love it. The march isn't about perfection. It's about presence, tradition, story. You march past a line of soldiers who snap a crisp salute. The bass drum behind you thuds like a heartbeat. You feel it in your feet. Olaf probably feels it in his beak. He keeps tilting his head like it's vibrating. And then, center stage. You halt at the middle of the courtyard. Olaf slides a few inches past you, stops, backs up, pretends it didn't happen. A small podium stands ahead. On it, a ceremonial medal glinting in the pale morning light. The ceremony begins. A Norwegian officer steps forward, uniform starched, medals clinking faintly. He addresses the crowd, then turns towards you both. You hear the familiar phrases. Bravery, symbol of unity, honor. And then the medal is lifted. For you, it's tradition now. This is your third. They don't stack them. You're not a Christmas tree. But each one carries a meaning, a story. This one is for mentoring. The medal is gently clipped to your sash. Applause ripples across the courtyard. But it's Olaf's moment. The officer turns to him, kneels, and lowers the medal meant just for him, silver with a small embroidered penguin silhouette on its ribbon. The clasp fumbles for a moment, and Olaf freezes. The officer chuckles and adjusts it. Click. The clasp closes. And just like that, he's no longer just Olaf, he's Lieutenant Olaf, Knight of the Royal Guard. The crowd goes absolutely feral. Children wave flags, drums thunder. Somewhere, a very serious-looking general tries very hard not to smile as Olaf trips, catches himself, then regains formation with a little hop. After the parade, you're both escorted to the reception area, a quiet section of the zoo with tables, gentle music, and more shrimp than any penguin could dream of. You gorge, Olaf gorges harder. At one point, he attempts to do a formal bow with a shrimp in his beak and nearly swallows it whole. It's a learning curve. As the sun peeks through the fog, you sit beside him near the reflecting pool. Your reflections shimmer on the surface, 2 little capes fluttering slightly in the breeze. And you wonder, do the others understand? The visitors, the officers, even the keepers? Do they know what it means to be honored this way, to wear fabric not meant for your species? To carry history on your back like a weight and a gift? Historians still argue whether these ceremonies are more for the people than the penguins, whether tradition can really be shared across feathers and boots. But you know, you've seen it in Olaf's eyes. He gets it. He might trip on his cape, he might mistake a medal for a fish, but when he marches beside you, eyes forward, flippers stiff, he knows. This isn't just about being cute. It's about being remembered. Later that night, back in your enclosure, Olaf curls up beside the heating rock, his medal still hanging proudly around his neck. He's snoring, a little wheezy honk on every exhale. You perch beside him, watching the stars flicker through the glass ceiling. And you smile. Because today, you saw the future of the Guard. And it waddles a little funny, but it's strong.
Morning arrives wrapped in a softer light than usual, and the enclosure smells vaguely of shrimp leftovers and faint pride. Olaf is still snoozing, medal askew, one flipper draped dramatically over his face like a movie star exhausted from fame. You resist the urge to nudge him.
He's earned this hangover nap. But not you. You're already up, waddling toward the outer wall, peering through the mesh, watching the zookeepers begin their quiet morning sweep. They move with the ease of ritual. Feed buckets here, water checks there, a quiet nod to the penguin exhibit as they pass. One keeper stops, notices you watching. She waves. You blink once in acknowledgement. It's an unspoken code between veteran and observer. There's something solemn in it, something that stretches beyond fish rations and temperature control. You feel it in your bones today, the weight of what happens next. Because a knighting is not just a ceremony, it's a shift, a ripple, a marker of legacy. You've made yours, and now, like the crusty scroll in that one book the keeper left lying near the window once, you begin to unroll a new chapter. Today, it's time to train the new recruits. Yes, plural. Turns out Olaf wasn't the only one nominated. The ceremonial knighting had a quiet clause in the footnotes. Other penguins pending. Translation? You've got company. 2 new birds arrive around mid-morning, accompanied by a loud crate and 2 very confused ducklings who accidentally hitched a ride. The ducklings are rerouted to the pond area. The penguins stay. You meet them at the edge of the ramp. One is sleek and tall, with a tiny scar above her eye and a permanent side-eye expression that suggests she's either judging you or contemplating mutiny. Her name is Freya. The other is round. So round, like suspiciously beach ball shaped, and he seems to be in love with the sunbeam hitting the floor. That's Bjorn. You eye them both. They stare back. Bjorn blinks out of sync. Freya blinks too slowly. Olaf tries to do a dramatic cape toss, but gets it tangled around his foot and faceplants. An excellent start. You gather the recruits near the ceremonial stone, a rock painted gold and completely meaningless, but the humans think it adds flair. It's your training post. You begin with posture. Posture is everything. You demonstrate the correct march form. Beak high, flippers loose but intentional, eyes forward. Freya copies it perfectly. Bjorn sits. You let that slide. Then comes the fish test. This is the part where recruits must resist a fish until instructed to eat it. It teaches discipline. You place a fish in front of each penguin. Freya stares at it like it owes her money. Bjorn sniffs his, licks it, and gently nudges it toward Olaf as a gift. Olaf eats it. Freya eats hers with precision. You nod. Not bad. You move to formation drills, marching in a triangle, turning on cue, holding a salute without pecking at your neighbor's feathers. The first few laps are chaos. Bjorn keeps waddling in the wrong direction, ends up outside the triangle. Freya growls, yes, actually growls, when Olaf steps on her webbed foot. Olaf insists it was the cape's fault. No one believes him. But then, something clicks. By lap 4, the lines are tighter, the salutes hold longer, the rhythm is emerging. Even Bjorn finds the beat. Mostly. You watch them from the front, flippers behind your back, heart slightly puffed with pride. They'll get there. You can feel it. After drills, the keepers bring enrichment puzzles, those little plastic domes with hidden treats inside. You use them as focus tools. Leadership is about more than posture. It's about strategy, patience, the ability to not freak out when someone hides your sardine. You assign each recruit a puzzle. Freya cracks hers in 32 seconds. Records may have been broken. She looks mildly insulted it took that long. Bjorn tries to sit on his. And you step back. Let them learn. Because today isn't about you anymore. Well, mostly. Around lunch, a news crew arrives. They're here to film The Royal Waddle. It's a documentary short, nothing flashy, but the camera crew has one focus: you. You pose by the reflecting pool. You march. You nod. You tolerate Olaf trying to photobomb your close-up. And the humans, they eat it up. Sir Nils Olaf, champion of discipline, the penguin who trained legends, one fish to rule them all. Okay, maybe not that last one, but it could happen. As the sun leans westward, the recruits collapse in a fluffy pile near the heat rock. Freya looks mildly annoyed, but doesn't move. Bjorn is already dreaming. His flippers twitch in sleep. Olaf snores beside them, his metal tilted like a sleepy tiara. You stand above them, watching, not with superiority, with responsibility. Because historians still argue whether tradition can be taught or if it must be absorbed, like warmth from a sunbeam, slow and invisible, but inevitable. You think both are true. You turn away and walk toward your post. The sun catches your metal. A child outside the enclosure gasps and waves. You don't wave back. That's not protocol. But you nod, because the parade may be over, but the march continues. And somewhere, deep in the zoo archives, someone updates a plaque. Sir Nils Olaf III, guardian of the guard, trainer of legends, eater of exactly 14 shrimp in one sitting. Your legacy has wings and flippers.
Evening drapes itself lazily across the zoo, painting the sky in sleepy oranges and pale purples. You sit atop your favorite perch, a strategically placed boulder with a gentle slope and a panoramic view of the enclosure, perfect for watching the world wind down. Below you, Bjorn mumbles in his sleep again, probably dreaming of sunbeams and salmon. Freya is grooming her feathers with mechanical precision, each motion crisp as a salute. Olaf is nowhere to be seen. Again. Typical. But you're not concerned. You've been through worse. Like that time someone mistook your honor medal for a treat and tried to trade you for a grape. That wasn't even the weirdest part of that day. Tonight, though, things are quiet. Almost too quiet. Until the bugle sounds. Yes, bugle. It's ceremonial. The zoo keeps a tiny brass instrument in storage specifically for penguin promotion nights, and today happens to be the annual Honors Review. That's a fancy way of saying time to give the penguins more shiny things. You're summoned. A keeper kneels outside the enclosure gate, beckoning you with that familiar red bucket of herring and barely contained excitement. You hop down from your perch with purpose. This isn't just dinner. This is destiny. Freya and Bjorn are roused. Olaf finally emerges dragging a towel like it's a royal cape. The gang assembles, waddling toward the gate as if they haven't been plotting nap coups all afternoon. The procession is smaller than the knighting parade, but still full of flair. Banners flapping, children clapping, a suspiciously large plush version of you being sold at the gift shop. You pause to stare at it. The resemblance is unsettling. Bjorn attempts to hug it. You steer him away. At the ceremonial platform, a small podium has been erected. A young cadet in dress blues reads aloud the official accolades. Your name, Sir Nils Olaf III, is pronounced flawlessly, which is a rare and glorious thing. You allow yourself a tiny preen. Then comes the list. Decorated for exemplary leadership, daily discipline, fish restraint, and successful onboarding of new recruits. Fish restraint, still your proudest moment. The ceremony concludes with a new pin, an enamel badge shaped like a sardine with a golden ribbon. It's clipped gently beside your existing medal. A small gasp ripples through the crowd. Not from the badge, from what happens next. The keeper lifts a scroll. An actual scroll, unrolls it dramatically, reads aloud a new title. Sir Nils Olaf III is hereby appointed as Honorary Tactical Strategist of the Royal Antarctic Expeditionary Forces. You blink. So does Freya. Bjorn burps.
This is unexpected. No penguin has ever been dubbed tacticool. You're not entirely sure it's even a real word. But the humans seem ecstatic, so you roll with it. Literally, you do a celebratory roll in the grass. The kids cheer. One adult tears up, possibly from allergies. Later, back in the enclosure, you gather the recruits. Tonight's lesson, improvisation. Because if your job now includes expeditionary strategist, you'll need to think on your flippers, adapt, outsmart, possibly even draw maps. Freya takes this seriously. She creates a detailed floor plan of the enclosure using crushed leaves and her beak. Bjorn eats part of the map. Olaf naps under the training ladder. You sigh, but it's the affectionate sigh of a commander who knows the quirks of their unit. You run them through a new drill. Unexpected obstacle evasion. You scatter pebbles, move the food dish, place a toy boat in the center path. It's mayhem, but productive mayhem. Freya navigates flawlessly. Bjorn knocks over the boat and cheers. Olaf somehow ends up in a barrel again. You reset. Try again. This time, Bjorn helps Freya. Olaf doesn't help anyone, but makes encouraging noises from inside the barrel. Progress. And that's when the keeper returns, with the clipboard and a laser pointer, and a question. They want you to consult. Apparently, the zoo is redesigning the penguin habitat, and they want your input, not metaphorically, literally. They place a blueprint at your feet. The laser pointer hovers over key sections. You examine it with care, tapping certain spots with your beak. Bigger pool? Tap. More shaded lounging rock? Tap tap. Better fish shoot? Tap tap tap. The keeper nods furiously, jotting everything down. You are shaping history. Historians still argue whether animals understand their own fame, whether symbolic gestures like medals and scrolls mean anything to the creatures receiving them. But you know. You may not understand every word on that scroll, but you understand the warmth of applause, the meaning of a feather preened just so, the quiet pride in a formation march done right. As twilight deepens, the recruits settle beside you. Freya finally accepts that she's part of a team. Bjorn snoozes with one flipper on your foot. Olaf peeks out of the barrel and hums. You sit quietly, gazing at the stars. They don't know it, but they're looking at the first honorary tacticool strategist of the Royal Antarctic Expeditionary Forces. And you're looking at the future. One fish at a time.
The stars stretch above like spilled sugar across velvet, and you sit beneath them, a knight, a strategist, a penguin with an impressive resume and an even more impressive following. But tonight isn't about medals or scrolls or blueprint consultations. No, tonight is about legacy and mischief. You blink slowly. The soft hoots of the night zoo echo around you, interspersed with distant murmurs from the last few lingering guests. The enclosure has stilled. Bjorn snores with an operatic slayer. Freya dreams twitchily. Olaf is somehow upside down on the training ramp, flippers flopped over his beak. You savor the quiet. And then, because you are nothing if not proactive, you do what any respectable feathered leader with honorary military credentials would do at this hour. You plan the greatest obstacle course the zoo has ever seen. First, reconnaissance. You waddle to the edge of the enclosure, eyeing the plastic slide, the rubbery boulders, the fake iceberg display. Your flippers twitch with possibilities. With a mental checklist sharper than your beak, you sketch the course in your mind. Historians still argue whether the tactical mind of a penguin is innate or influenced by environmental enrichment. Tonight, you put both theories to the test. You pluck pebbles from the walkway. These will be your landmines. The overturned bucket becomes a tunnel. A series of fish-shaped plushies becomes the enemy decoys. The real fish will be the prize at the end, assuming anyone survives Olaf's barrel trap. You survey your masterpiece. It's beautiful, functional, possibly illegal under zoo bylaws. You beam. At dawn, the recruits awake to find their enclosure transformed. Bjorn gasps. Freya narrows her eyes. Olaf immediately falls into the barrel again. Perfect. You call the team to formation with a single commanding squawk. The tone is clear. Today we train. Bjorn charges ahead. Predictable. He slams into the plushy decoys and flails dramatically. Freya navigates with surgical precision, hopping each landmine like she's studied their spacing all night. Olaf, still upside down, somehow triggers a hidden tunnel collapse. Read, a bucket tips over. The exercise repeats, and again. You adjust variables, introduce new elements. Add a civilian, a rubber duck, and assign Freya to protect it. She carries it like royalty. Bjorn attempts to eat it. Olaf names it Kevin. By mid-morning, a small crowd has gathered. The keepers are laughing, whispering into walkie-talkies, clearly both amused and bewildered. A clipboard appears, notes are taken. You pose regally near the tunnel entrance. Someone films you, you're certain of it. One of the younger guests yells, "That penguin is smarter than my brother," and you allow yourself a modest nod.
The headkeeper enters with a fresh scroll. Uh-oh. No ceremony this time, just a quiet corner conversation with the junior staff. Then he approaches you with a look that says, "We need to talk, but also I respect you deeply and maybe fear you a little." He presents the scroll, your new directive. Design enrichment exercises for the juvenile penguins. You glance at the recruits. Freya is lecturing Kevin the duck about perimeter security. Bjorn is sitting in the food bowl. Olaf is stuck inside a life ring. Challenge accepted. You draft a training schedule. Mornings will be spent in physical drills, obstacle courses, speed waddles, precision flipper control. Afternoons are for tactics, visual puzzles, pattern recognition, fake rescues. Evenings? Story time with you. Leadership lessons, motivational flaps, perhaps a slideshow if the projector ever works again. The keepers install a chalkboard. You draw diagrams with your beak. Freya nods solemnly. Bjorn eats chalk. Olaf falls asleep standing up. Historians still argue whether penguins understand training structure. Some say it's all instinct. Others believe they crave order. You're leaning toward the latter, especially since Freya has now created a color-coded seating chart. The recruits begin to flourish. Freya commands her own fire team. Bjorn finally masters the zigzag course. Olaf discovers a hidden tunnel behind the cooling rocks and promptly claims it as his headquarters. He posts a sign, "No seals allowed." You grant him diplomatic immunity. Then something unexpected happens. New penguins arrive. 3 of them, fresh from another zoo. Nervous, uncertain, smelling faintly of sardines and bubble wrap. You greet them with a bow. They stare. You blink. They blink. And then the one with the freckled beak steps forward and says, well, squawks, something that roughly translates to, "Are you the famous strategist?" Bjorn beams. Freya steps protectively forward. Olaf waves from his tunnel. You nod. Training begins anew. The recruits train the newcomers under your supervision. Freya shares Kevin the duck. Bjorn demonstrates dramatic role avoidance. Olaf gives a confusing tunnel tour. You watch it all unfold. Later that night, you sit atop your favorite boulder. The zoo is quiet again. You look out over your kingdom, your squad, your projects, your scrolls. A gust of wind ruffles your metals. You imagine how this might be recorded someday. Sir Nils Olaf III, tactical innovator, morale master, penguin of purpose. You yawn. It's been a good day. And tomorrow, there's talk of drone enrichment exercises. You're ready. After all, you're not just a penguin anymore. You're a strategist. And you've got chalk to eat. Plans to draw.
It's a new morning, but today there's a buzz in the air. Figuratively, sure, but also literally, because someone has just wheeled in a low-flying drone shaped like a fish. You stare up at it from the training boulder. The propellers whir, lights blink like carnival eyes, and it smells faintly of burnt plastic and ambition. A keeper in aviator sunglasses grins at you from the side gate. He holds a remote control and a coffee that says, "World's #1 penguin consultant." You squawk once. The recruits assemble. "Drone Day has arrived!" The fish drone lifts into the air, wobbling slightly like a confused seagull. It hovers, then darts forward with an agility most of your squad can only dream of. Freya narrows her eyes. Olaf attempts to climb a rock to get a better view and immediately topples backward into the wading pool. Bjorn charges the drone without a plan, of course, flapping dramatically and yelling what sounds like, "Bite the sky meat!" It is intercepted by a laser pointer. The drone emits a quiet boop. Historians still argue whether ancient cultures could have predicted the emotional chaos caused by enrichment toys. You're starting to see why. You call a quick team huddle. The fish drone will now serve as an aerial scout. Freya suggests plotting its movements. You draw a map in the sand with your beak. Bjorn sits on the map. Olaf names the drone Gerald. You assign everyone roles. Freya as communications officer, Bjorn as frontline response with a very short leash, and Olaf as... Look, he's now inside a cooler, peeking through the crack like a submarine commander, so you assign him observation. It's close enough. The first drill begins. The drone loops around the enclosure. Freya squawks commands like a general. Olaf reports, "Gerald is blinking aggressively!" Bjorn charges again. Freya throws a pebble in his path to slow him down. The crowd watching from beyond the fence claps wildly. You execute a feint maneuver, flanking the drone as it loops low. The move is textbook and effective. Gerald wobbles and lands softly near the feeding rock. You and Freya approach like debriefing officers. Gerald blinks one final time, then powers down. Mission accomplished. A keeper hands you a sticker that says, "Target neutralized." You slap it on your flipper with pride. That evening, there's a meeting in the keeper's lounge. You're invited, obviously. There's a whiteboard, charts, a schedule. You hop up onto the table and survey the topics. One reads, "Sir Nils Educational Exhibit." Your beak twitches. You're getting your own exhibit. Not just any exhibit, one with interactive buttons, little plastic penguins on strings, and a video loop that shows you saluting a Norwegian officer while bagpipes play softly. You are becoming legend. But here's the twist. This new honor comes with a mission. You will oversee Penguin Youth Day. Children from all over the city will visit. They will meet the squad. They will waddle, or attempt to, through a scaled-down obstacle course. They will receive cardboard medals, and they will learn the way of the waddle, as passed down through generations of mostly fish-loving, occasionally tactical penguins. You spend the next week training your team not just in movement, but in patience. Olaf is instructed not to yell, "Intruders!" at the children. Bjorn is reminded that toddlers are not fish and should not be tackled. Freya prepares a briefing scroll with colored crayon diagrams.
When the day arrives, it's chaos, in a joyful, peanut butter fingerprints everywhere sort of way. Kids crowd the viewing platforms. One little girl wears a homemade wimple and declares herself General of Snacks. A boy offers you a fish-shaped cookie. You accept it graciously and hide it behind a rock. The obstacle course goes live. Children cheer as Bjorn barrels through the tunnels, hits a plush decoy, and collapses in faux defeat. Freya nods solemnly at their applause. Olaf insists on narrating the action from atop a cooler. You take photos with the children. One hands you a hand-drawn picture of yourself with exaggerated flippers and sunglasses. Another puts a tiny plastic sword in your flipper. You raise it to the sky. The zoo erupts. Later, back in the enclosure, your squad collapses in a tired heap. You sit atop your usual perch, sword tucked under your wing, the stars just beginning to wink overhead. That night, you dream in fish and fanfare. The next morning brings another surprise. A delegation from the Norwegian consulate. You blink slowly. They wear suits, polished shoes, and slightly confused expressions as you waddle toward them. One holds a silver envelope with a gold wax seal. Another has a tiny metal box. You freeze. Freya gasps. Bjorn drops his sardine. Olaf somehow produces a trumpet made of 2 straws and a crayon box. The official opens the envelope and reads, "In recognition of continued service, creativity, and public relations excellence in representing both your species and the spirit of cooperation, we hereby bestow upon Sir Nils Olav the honorary title of Penguin Ambassador of Fun and Order." A pause. Then a cheer. Well, a mixture of human clapping and penguin flapping. A ribbon is placed around your neck. The metal glints in the sun. Freya wipes a tear. Bjorn attempts to eat the ribbon. Olaf salutes upside down. The crowd thins. The ceremony ends, but you stay in place for a moment longer, watching the breeze lift the flags, watching the children wave as they disappear through the gate. You're not just a penguin. You're a teacher, a leader, an ambassador. And tomorrow, you hear rumors of a bouncy castle being delivered. You're going to need new drills.
The sun rises behind a scrim of gentle mist, like a warm lamp filtered through gauze. You wake slowly, not to alarms or fanfare, but to the quiet hush of the water shifting beneath your rock. Freya is already up, preening with methodical grace. Bjorn is snoring face down in a bucket. Olaf is lecturing a flock of pigeons from the fence post. It's going to be a normal day. Or as normal as your days get now that you've been knighted, saluted, interviewed, and promoted to Ambassador of Fun and Order. You stretch your wings, fluff your feathers, and hop down to the pool. The water is cool against your belly. A duck swims by and gives you a nod of respect. You have, after all, become something of a diplomatic legend. But today, there's a different energy. Less pageantry, more peace. A return to rhythm. The keepers arrive without ceremony. They place breakfast fish in your usual spot. You still get the largest herring, a quiet reminder of your status, but no cameras roll this time. Just the soft crunch of snow beneath boots and the distant hum of coffee machines. You find yourself waddling to the far side of the enclosure, past the now permanent sign bearing your name and titles. There, you stand in the shade of a tree planted in your honor. A plaque at its base reads, "In service of smiles and waddles." You chuckle softly. A small tour group drifts by. The guide points at you, murmuring softly in French. One child waves. You nod back. There's no applause, just mutual acknowledgement. You're both celebrity and citizen, an icon and a penguin, a paradox in feathers. You return to your team. Freya presents a new training schedule,
color-coded, naturally. Bjorn suggests replacing the drone with a catapult. Olaf proposes forming a diplomatic council with the meerkats. The ideas are chaotic, but you encourage all of them. Because that's what a leader does. Later in the day, a keeper wheels in a weatherproof notebook. Inside are dozens of drawings, letters, and thank you notes. Children from around the world have sent messages. Dear Sir Nils, I love your flippers. You're my hero. Do you eat cake? You flip through the pages slowly, touched in ways no penguin should logically understand. But you do. You understand perfectly, because you've done something rare. You've inspired joy, not through speeches or inventions, but by simply being you. Historians still argue whether joy can be a legacy, whether a laugh, a grin, or a goofy stumble means as much as monuments and treaties. But if they ever asked you, you'd say, absolutely. That evening, as stars emerge like pinpricks on deep velvet, you gather your team one last time atop the boulder. The moon glints off the pool. A nearby radio plays something soft, maybe sauty, maybe elevator jazz. But either way, it fits. You look to your Freya, ever the steady one. She bows slightly. To Bjorn, loyal, even in absurdity, he offers you a soggy fish snack. To Olaf, who is now constructing a crown from popsicle sticks. You exhale slowly. It's been a long journey from egg to embassy, from waddling in shadows to saluting in front of thousands. You've crossed continents, inspired nations, and taught small humans that even penguins can wear medals. But here's the quiet truth. None of it mattered more than this. The camaraderie, the fish flinging, the silent pre-dawn swims, the sense that even in absurdity, there is purpose.
And so, as night deepens and snow begins to fall, you tuck your wings beneath your belly, nestle against a warm patch of stone, and drift toward sleep. Not as a knight, or a mascot, or a meme, but as Sir Nils Olav, penguin, ambassador, and friend. And now, the stars settle fully into place, as if stitched there by some patient celestial hand. The air is still. The laughter of the day lingers only as memory, soft as feathers, light as snow. The world beyond the zoo fades into quiet. Cars gone, voices hushed, time paused gently, like breath held between dreams. You curl deeper into your perch, feeling the earth support you, the sky above forgive everything. Your flippers twitch once, maybe remembering a swim you took long ago, or the weight of a medal brushed against your chest by a kind hand. Your story, full of fanfare and fish, has touched so many, and yet tonight, it's enough that it's touched you. A breeze passes gently through the reeds. Somewhere far off, an owl asks a question to the dark. The penguin squad sleeps around you, each wrapped in their own quiet rhythm, their own peace. And you, hero of toddlers, knight of laughter, close your eyes. The dreams waiting for you now are slow, warm, silly, like watching clouds rearrange themselves into castles, or walking down a corridor made of snow and light and music with no beginning and no end. Tonight, no parades, no medals, just rest. You've done enough. You are enough. And as the night deepens, you vanish into stillness, into that deep, soft space where even penguins can fly. Sweet dreams.